A few weeks to go on Carmageddon, unfortunately. Interesting place to break down on. I'm going to take the spare key, the key that looks just like this, a Mercedes Switchblade key. I'm going to put it in a box and I'm going to hide it somewhere. If you find this key, it'll have a note attached to it. Send me an email, you get this car. Happy hunting. Welcome to Hooptie's Garage, the dumbest automotive channel in all of YouTube. And Carmageddon 2021 is continuing. As I described in previous videos, the month of July, even though it's my birthday month, seems to be the time when all of my cars break. It's when I see the tow truck the most and have a lot of problems. And this year is particularly rough. As you saw in the beginning of the video, my 1985 Mercedes S500 SL broke down again. So the second tow truck in the span of a week. It originally went up because the hood latch broke and I couldn't get the hood open. Magic Mike, the Wizards head tech there, got it open within 3 minutes, but I'm just a moron. Still, it had other issues, transmission leaks, that kind of stuff. Those were all fixed. Went to drive it home and broke down about 3 miles from home for whatever reason. It seemed like it had a very big vacuum leak, like a line blew off and then the car just wouldn't run. It would barely idle. The Wizard tried to fix it roadside, but didn't work. On the tow truck again, back to the car Wizards. And that wasn't even the worst of the Carmageddon failures this week. Another one that I can't really show you because it's for a different thing. I actually had a car catch fire briefly last week, right before I went out of town for my birthday weekend. So that's quite nice. But I've decided I'm a slave to these cars, and for a few reasons, I need to get rid of a lot. My goal is to get under 20 cars. So that means getting rid of, well, 5 or 6. And one of them, I think, is this Plymouth Prowler after a year of ownership. Yes, 5 or 6 cars need to go. I'm actually giving away 2 of them. One of them will be kind of a scavenger hunt for the key. So if you live near the Wichita area, you may win a car, a very rare Mercedes, if you happen to find the spare key that I'm going to hide somewhere. More on that in a little bit. I'll have clues and stuff, so if you're subscribed to Hooptie's Garage, you'll see the clues and community posts and things, but if you're not subscribed, then you'll miss out. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, and well, Hooptie's Garage merch always helps. But yes, 5 or 6 cars need to go, and this Prowler is the one I'm most reluctant to part with, but I kind of feel bad for it. I bought it about a year ago and I really appreciated the Prowler a lot more now that I own it. I always thought it was some goofy Chrysler product that they just built to look like an old 30s Roadster and really not much going on underneath. But that's absolutely not true because the chassis on this thing is quite impressive. Chrysler wanted to experiment with bonded aluminum, welding aluminum together, and they needed a lower production car to practice with. And the Prowler was the answer. So not only does it have a lightweight aluminum chassis, it also has a pretty near 50-50 weight distribution with the all aluminum 3.5 liter V6 in the front, transmission mounted in the rear with a torque tube, double wishbone suspension like an Indy car. And I modded this thing. People knock the engine not being a V8, but it's actually a very good engine, 253 horsepower stock, all aluminum, 3.8 liters, 3.5 actually, plenty of displacement, and modded this thing to, well, over 300 horsepower with some light bolt-ons, and then changed the rear end ratio to really liven this thing up along with a transmission tune, and this thing is an absolute hoot to drive. The problem is, I've never driven it. Over the past year, I put maybe 300 miles on this car. It's been absolutely flawless since we fixed everything, and I haven't used it. It's mostly sat up there on the lift, and I know it hasn't been down for a very long time because when I brought it down, it was still set on heat, so I think I was driving it in, well, early, late spring, definitely before summer. So it's been up there for months, and that's kind of neglectful. If I'm not using a car, I should probably get rid of it, but quite a reluctant sale because whenever I do get it down and drive it, I really enjoy it because it is super fun to drive. The seats, old school, cushy Chrysler comfort, and it is just such a hoot. But when you have like a Diablo VT Roadster and other amazing cars, you can drive a big Bentley Azure, a lot of convertible options, this one kind of gets left behind. So I'm a very lucky guy. But if you're looking for a fun, goofy sports car that you don't see every day for under $30,000, this is a great option. Now, I'm not going to give this car away. I'm going to sell it because it is worth quite a bit of money. I haven't decided how I'm going to sell it yet. Cars and Bids, Barrett Jackson, or just sell it to somebody. But I think I've resigned its fate to let it go. Now, there is one other car at the Car Wizards that I'm going to get rid of, and that is the Cadillac Fleetwood, the big boat purple sedan that I have. Since I have other luxury land yachts like that Mercedes that I like better, there's no point in me keeping that. But the other 4 cars are actually right here and outside, and 2 of them, well, I'm just going to give them away. Yes, let's saunter on outside to Hooptie Row, where I can go over the other cars that I'm planning to get rid of or give away. And you can see, well, quite a beautiful lineup up here of Hoopties, and all of them are for sale or going away. Starting with this, my 2008 BMW 135i that I bought on Cars and Bids, and it had all the bolt-ons on it, everything you do to tune these things up short of different turbos and all that. Really, really fast, really fun on the track day after we fixed the charge pipe, which blew off, but spent quite a bit of money since buying it on Cars and Bids for around $12,000, about $3,000 in fixes, including the wastegate rattle, several leaks, and it has been a very good car since then. Cosmetically, it's not the prettiest 135 in the world. You have the paint that's kind of peeling, the bumper is misaligned, it definitely needs a good detail, but these cars are very, very collectible and appreciating every day. But with all the things that I have going on for the rest of the year, I forgot to mention new season of car issues is in pre-production. I'm gonna have to buy 10 cars for that, several track days, another car trek before the end of the year, Countach Rally, several trips. There's not gonna be another track day that I'm going to be able to attend that, with this car at least, for the rest of the year. So that would be next spring. This car will sit for a year, and I don't want that to happen. It's better if I find another home for it. If it sells for around what I paid for it in Cars and Bids, I'll be happy because I put a lot more money into it fixing it. But it's a very good car, a very special car. Next to it is, well, a slightly less special BMW that I am going to give away. I have found a home for it, so please don't email me anymore about this car. We're going to have a little experiment with this 645. We are going to fix some things, and then we're going to have a little social experiment with the 645. Hopefully I can unveil that in the next video. Next to it, my BMW, or sorry, it is a BMW, a Mini Cooper, 2004 Mini Cooper SMC 40 edition. This is a tribute to the Monte Carlo race car, the first special edition Mini. This is another one that's really hard for me to let go because I do like driving it. It sits outside when the weather's bad. I just doodle around in this thing. It is very fun. We put a smaller pulley on it, fixed a lot of stuff. It is quite fast and the handling is unreal. And the fact that I spent $8,000 in repairs on this Mini Cooper, and it isn't even worth that, well, kind of absurd. So to get rid of it is kind of dumb because I'll definitely lose money, but I do need to get rid of some cars because, like I said, I'm going to be buying 10 cars for the car issue show, a bunch of cars for car treks, some other things, so I do need to lighten the load here. This one, I wouldn't be sad if it sticks around, though, if it didn't bring at least, well, what I paid for in the last big repair bill. So those 3 cars are going. The 135, I'll leave a link to the Cars and Bid listing that has a lot of the information on that car if you're interested in it. But this rare beauty is the car that well, you can get for free. So the other day when I was driving up to collect my 85 500 SL, I drove the S500 Coupe that I had just driven back from the Car Wizards to fix. I don't even remember what I fixed. I fixed a lot of things on this car, and well, the blower motor started making a horrible, horrible noise. It still works, but every once in a while it just starts screaming like it's going to die, so that's near death. I was gonna drive it back up and fix it, even though it's had one used blower motor put in it before it was used, and that was a year ago, so it needs another. And then the SL broke down, so I ended up driving this car back down. And you know what? I'm just done with it. I'm just fed up with Carmageddon at the moment, so I think making a sacrifice to the Hooptie gods may finally break this curse of this month, which is why I'm going to give away this very rare S500 Coupe that I bought on a wholesale auction site from California, and it's actually in pretty decent shape. There's a little bit of, you know, damage here and there, wear and tear commensurate with 158,000 miles, but it is in quite nice shape. It's a California car, no rust. And these are very rare and super cool. I love the shape of these 140 S-Class coupes. They're just funky and distinctive. Pillarless, both windows roll down so you have a pillarless coupe. And the ride on these is just unbelievably good. Mercedes spent over $1 billion developing this platform, and I feel like this was the last great S-Class before they started cost-cutting and building cars to kind of rival Lexus and others and built them more to a price point rather than making them the best cars in the world. This is a Hooptie rescue mission that I bought for $2,200 a little over a year ago. I've probably spent at least $5,000 fixing it since then. It's ready to drive cross country right now with the exception of the annoying noise with the blower motor, but I've decided to give it away. And I decided to give it away in a weird way where I'm going to take the spare key, the key that looks just like this, a Mercedes Switchblade key. I'm going to put it in a box and I'm going to hide it somewhere. Now I will show you where I hid it, but the point is to not make it so easy where you know where it is. If you live in the Wichita area, you definitely have an advantage because you're here. You also may know Wichita pretty well, but I'm going to hide it here shortly in Wichita. And if you find this key, it'll have a note attached to it. Send me an email. You get this car, a very cool car, and maybe the curse will finally be broken. Oh man, the seats in this thing are just so comfortable. I do really like this car. I just don't need it, and maybe this good karma will break the spell. I've hidden the spare key in this Mercedes model. I'm going to now take it to the place that I am going to hide it. And I will tell you, it is in a public place. It's not in my yard or in my old yards, any kind of private property at all. It's something that the public can walk up to at any time of the day or night and find this car. And I have filmed at this location before a very, very long time ago, and that's the only hint you're going to get other than showing where the car is, a very tight close-up of that. And well, if you don't find it, I guess I'll keep dropping hints until somebody does. Hopefully somebody wants this car and goes on a little Wichita scavenger hunt, finds this thing. There's a little note inside saying congratulations, just in case some random person stumbles across it. Maybe they'll email me, maybe they won't, but I'm gonna hide it pretty darn good. Yeah, I don't really do contests, so I'm not sure. Obviously, a kid can't win this thing. It has to be, well, with parents' permission, I guess. But I'm not giving it to a child. It has to have a valid driver's license. You have to have the ability to insure this car yourself before you drive off in it. I suppose that's all the rules. But yeah, win a free, very rare Mercedes that, well, needs a few things, but totally drivable. And the AC does work. It just sounds like you're at the dentist a little bit. Occasionally it gets really loud, but usually it's just this high-pitched that. All right, here's your hint. Since it is treasure, I did bury it slightly in some mulch. If the paper gets ruined inside from getting wet, there's another paper in the trunk, but hopefully it's found before it gets too wet. But that's where it is. Happy hunting.